Hey, what's up?
What they do?
I'm glad we finally were both looking at the camera when the video came on.
I know. I had some technical difficulties with my little camera here. I love my little camera, but it was giving me some problems, so I'm happy we got it straight.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody to the return of That Part Podcast. Just to give you a quick explanation of what we got going on. We are in series 3. We do 2 series a year. One, we first started this more on the political tip, of course, and we still are on the political tip. So we start the first series that we started happened to be before the primaries. Then we take a 4-week break, and then we come back and do another series leading into election. So those are the 2 series we do each year. So this is our second year, and this is now series number 4 and our first episode. So we want to welcome you to That Pop Podcast 305. First instruction we got for you: please subscribe. We got to get those subscribers up in order for us to really reach a broader audience and connect with more people. So we appreciate the fact of you definitely connecting with us on that level, and please subscribing and sharing, letting other people know that this is what you tapping in. You supporting your girl, Janey Tate, you know what I'm saying, founder of High Low News. You supporting your boy Papa Key that you listen to on the radio. And this is where we come together and we share information with y'all that we know, and we make it cool and we break it down and we bring some experts and some people to talk about it so it can make sense and, like Janey loves to say, make it digestible for you. All right. So that's my little spiel. Janey, you want to add anything on to it?
No, just happy to be back for series 4, season 4, whatever you want to call it, the 4th edition. I can't believe we've been doing this now, going on this is year 2.
Two
It feels
years,
like
two
we just
years.
started. So
Mhm.
that's kind of amazing, and the growth that we've had and the things that we've accomplished. So yeah, let's keep it going.
Absolutely, and we appreciate y'all. Of course, this is brought to you by High Low News, South Florida's hyperlocal news. Our founder, Janey, Tate. We both host this together, man. This is what do we call it? A love,
Labor of love.
labor of love, labor of love. That's what it is, man. We don't got no big sponsors yet, but we scrape up our little
Not yet.
dollars, and we have an amazing producer that helps us out. That we got to take care of as well, and we take and carve time out of our day to make this possible because we find it so important for you, and we also want to do our thing and create our legacy and make sure that we're doing the right things by our people by giving y'all this information.
Yes.
You know
And
what I mean?
today, yeah, it's gonna be packed full of information because we're gonna be talking about the county budget and things that's going on with Miami-Dade County schools. We got some amazing guests that are gonna be helping us break that down. So this episode, we wanted to come in and, break down some hot topics that have been going on in South Florida. And nothing has been bigger than kids possibly not having vaccines and Miami-Dade County budget, drama, and all that's been going on over there. So we got some people that we feel like are experts or can give you some insight that are
We know
have a
our experts.
yes, that that can help us break down and talk about some of the nuances of this conversation.
Yeah, that part, man. So we're excited to do it. Again, please make sure y'all support High Low News. Y'all
Thank
subscribe
you.
to it and make it a part of your daily understanding. These conversations that we having are conversations that are happening, started by High Low News, and we're carrying on these conversations with you on the podcast. So please, if you want to get the information quickly, you want to understand what's going on, you want it broken down for you when you have your private time to read it and take it all in, definitely subscribe to High Low News.
Oh, I appreciate how hard you be going for Hello News. Like you really, be like in the paper us. And there's
Nah,
some things that we'll be revealing to people that you've done. I don't know if we want to share that yet, but I'm like,
let's wait
I
till
feel
let's show it off
okay.
next week because it's gonna be
Okay.
live this weekend. So let me get some nice pictures and everything going, and then we'll show off on our next episode.
Okay. Okay.
You ready to get this party started?
Yeah, we're ready to get this party started. And yeah, we can because our first guest has just joined us, rejoined us. We live, y'all. So we roll
I
with the
know,
punches
for
over
real.
here.
And you will be entertained. Don't you worry about that, man. So bear with us, man. We slowly getting back to our groove. You know what I'm talking about? We appreciate y'all very much. So who we start with first, JT?
Our first guest is Mr. Antonio Tony White.
All right, Mr. Antonio Tony White. Shout out to this brother. I'm not even gonna read no script. I'm gonna just talk from the heart about this brother, man. I first got connected with UTD, which is United Teachers of Dade, years ago when we first started People Manifest. And we were looking for some sponsors and people to help us out and believe in what we're doing. And UTD locked in with us right away. They helped us out with people entering the People Manifest and registering them, and they would help to give away books and just connect with them. And I thought it was just such a beautiful partnership that we had and had throughout the years. And this brother, at the time, he wasn't the president at the time, man, but I'm so proud and happy that he has gotten the opportunity to lead this amazing group of educators. You know what I mean? And I just want to give him his roses and welcome him to the show. He's the president of United Teachers of Dade. And my brother, welcome to That Part Podcast. We are so happy to have you, the one and only Mr. Antonio, aka
Hey.
White, in the building with the glasses to match the shirt. What we doing?
Oh my goodness! Hey, Papa Keith, it's always great to see you, man. It's been a long time, haven't seen you in a while.
Yes.
But you continue to do big things and great things. You continue to think big and outside the box. and I definitely have to commend you for that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, man. And congratulations again on your new position or newly position as president of UTD. You've done so much for so many years to support, our teachers in Dade, and you've marched. I mean, I've seen these things with my eyes so I can speak to it. You know what I mean? Y'all go up to Tallahassee, y'all get busy. You know what I mean? I'll tussle and fight to get, the rights that our teachers deserve. And we can never say it enough and know enough that teachers are our backbones, and they're underpaid, overworked, lack of supplies, you name it, man.
All of that and then some.
All of that and then some. Then they got to sit back and watch people at Alligator Alcatraz make 3 times they pay. You know what I mean? With no education, it's wild. So we appreciate our teachers, brother.
Look, yeah, I'm glad to be here with you today, man, because, we're living in some strange times right now, where ideology is overruling all type of common sense. My grandmother used to say, everybody doesn't come with common sense, right? It's not all that commmen.
Common sense ain't that common.
Yeah, we see some of the things that are taking place in our society today, and it's scary. I'm fortunate enough to have spent the last 31 years in education. This was my second profession. Because I know it's the only thing they can't take back from us. And the more that we can educate ourselves and our communities, the better off we're going to be in the long run. Because the only thing they really killed us for doing slavery was reading a book, right? And we need to make sure that people understand the importance of knowledge. And like I said earlier, I appreciate you staying in the fight, continuing to do the things you do, thinking outside the box, to make sure our community is educated, but more so informed on the things that matter most to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Janey, let's get the subject started here, because this one is a hot button topic that's going on right now, really important. And we wanted someone like you, Mr. Tony, to be involved with this, because we're just trying to understand, like, to your point, with this madness. The protection of our children is always a top priority for us and a concern for us. So anything that's going to jeopardize our children and their well-being, that's like a 911. So we definitely wanted to have this conversation and jump it off, on our series return.
Yeah, in the conversation, we're talking about vaccines, and we all saw the headlines that make national news. Florida is always going Florida. And we saw the Surgeon General and our governor talk about dismantling vaccine mandates and ending a long-standing policy meant to protect students and staff from preventable diseases. And so, Mr. Tony, when you first heard about the state's decision, what was your original or your initial reaction?
My initial reaction was, here we go again, right? I call this another phase of what I refer to as organized chaos, right? Our society is so divided these days with the way government is being run on the state level as well as the national level. And, in the state of Florida, we're a little ahead of the people in the nation, because we have been the test babies for all bad legislation and bad policies for the last 5 to 10 years. The federal government is now just adopting those bad policies and pushing them across people all over the state. But when they talked about eliminating vaccinations, I was appalled. I mean, we were very concerned at the United Teachers of Dade, because we know we work in close proximity with children in the 4th largest district in this country. Our students, 60% of our students, close to 65% of them actually, English is their second language. So we're talking about people that come from all over the world, from every corner that you can imagine, that sets foot here in our home state. And that's just an unbelievable ask or unbelievable thing to attempt to do. When we talk about vaccinations in this country, vaccinations has been a part of our school system for the past 50 years. Vaccinations have proven to be effective. We just deal with people now who truly don't believe in science. And I think, truthfully, I think they got the vaccinations first when it came to COVID, but they didn't want to tell other people that they took those vaccinations, right? Because we had a situation here in Miami where they found out that people on Star Island was the first ones to get the vaccine before it ever became public. And at that point, I knew it was something that I should take.
That part.
Wow. The fascinating part for me in all of this is that, we have people who get appointed to make certain decisions on our behalf and on behalf of our children, right? So the wild part, and I'm sure a lot of people might have saw the interview that your Surgeon General had with
Not yours.
I'm starting to crap. Your Surgeon General had with Jake Tapper, when Tapper asked him, and we know, like, listen, I work for a corporate company. Most of us work for corporate companies or have worked for corporate companies. They don't do a damn thing without research. That's one thing I'm going to tell you. Research may not be right 100, but they're not making a move without research. So Jake Tapper asked him, hey, man, before you made this decision, did you do any research to find out how this would affect them? And that man, or whatever, boldly said, no. I mean, I was so embarrassed for us, skin folk, not kinfolk, just to see him just be so ignorant in that way. Then, like, not invest in one of these. This was another issue I had. Man. I mean, the brother had no chapstick. Oh my gosh.
They all have a look, those type of people, but whatever.
That Tom Sawyer, I don't know, whatever. But man, I was just so embarrassed, man. And so that was the part that kind of really disturbed me the most. Was just him and what he had to say in his response in terms of the research, because I find it just to be in that position is just so disrespectful to the state of Florida and to the constituents, and it hurt.
Oh, did it hurt? Listen, I was actually surprised they asked him that question, because they normally don't ask those type of questions to their own people, right? But it was the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. Research, especially for somebody who's supposed to be a doctor, right? Research is the key to everything that his career is based on. We realized that when the scientists plucked him out of California for the simple fact that he was an anti-vaxxer, he met the qualifications, checked off the box for their illusion for COVID, because they did not want to, as they say, recognize the science that we all live and depend on. Because science matters, right? We're talking about world-renowned scientists that these people simply disregard for hoaxes and illusions. As I said before, I call it organized chaos, because I don't think they're in the business of helping people or communities. We're in a bad state right now, where we have total control by one party of everything that affects all of our lives on a daily matter. In the state of Florida, they control the House, the Senate, the governor's mansion, but more importantly, they control the courts. And ironically enough, they control the courts before they actually got control of everything else. So even though they continue to push these bad policies out on us, only thing we can do is continue to stand up and fight back. But they just continue to appeal decisions that the lower courts say that this is not right. And they just continue to appeal and appeal and appeal till it gets to a court of their liking. And that's a dangerous situation to put us in our communities in these days. When we talk about children, we're talking about the most innocent and the most vulnerable, who we should all be protecting. As a teachers union, what we do is we make sure that children are safe, well, and nourished, right? And they try to distract from those things. When you talk about vaccinations themselves, it is utterly ridiculous for anybody to say that vaccinations have not been a big part of the sustainment of our society for years and years and years. We remember rubella. We remember the Spanish flu. We got all these diseases, mumps, rubella, whooping cough, chicken pox, that vaccines have kind of almost wiped off the map to a certain degree because, there's a such thing known as herd immunity. When the majority of percentage of people have a vaccine, it actually protects those that don't have a vaccine, right? Because we can prevent those things from taking place. But these people are simply disregarding science and disregarding everything that we have come to believe over the last 50, 60 years or so.
Wow.
Tony or Mr. Tony, as the United Teacher of Dade president, what are you hearing from staff and teachers when this news broke? What are they
When this
saying?
news broke, we began receiving calls and emails right away, and people could not believe that that was true. They actually thought it was a hoax. But I've been around Florida long enough. I've been at the United Teachers of Dade, actively engaged in this work for the past 25 years, and I knew it was not a hoax. It was, like I say, another thing to throw you off. I call it, like to say, organized confusion. These people do one thing today, and it's before you can latch on to it strong, they do another thing tomorrow to distract you from what they did yesterday. And the day after that, they do something else. Our people were unbelievably upset at this situation, even though right now it isn't happening. They say that they projected to do this. I think they're going to run into some backlash in the process of doing this because to fully eliminate vaccines in the state of Florida requires an act of Congress, right? It doesn't require just LADAPO saying we're going to get rid of all vaccines. There are some legislative requirements that it takes to get rid of that. And fortunately, right now, the Republican Party seems to want to fight with themselves. You have the DeSantis camp and you have the Trump camp. And truthfully, that's worked out better for us in this last legislation that this governor has to preside over.
Wow.
So
Keep
would
them
you just
busy
say
fighting.
is this just like conjecture or pomp and circumstance or something to make a headline? Because if for them to say they want to do this, but it's going to take a legislative act for it to actually be passed, do you think that this was just something to ruffle feathers?
Of course. Well, it started that way. I mean, listen, they ruffle feathers every day. If you pay attention to the news every single day, they throw something out to throw people off, right? And it's just, it's a distraction. But it's probably something they were truly wanting to do until they got the backlash of this, because this thing went global instantly. The day that they made this announcement, I probably did 9 interviews. Washington Post, New York Times, Channel 10, Channel 7. It went global quickly, right? And I think that'll kind of put the brakes on some of the things they're trying to do, especially when it comes to school-age children. Because, they based a lot of this stuff on what they deem parental rights, right? But there's 2 sides to parental rights, right? There's the parental rights of those that don't believe in vaccinations. And then there's the majority of parental rights that understand that they had vaccinations even when they came to school, and they have already seen the effect that vaccinations have on preventing these type of diseases.
You have a question, PK?
No, I'm just taking it all in. Someone wrote in the chat that there was an outbreak last year that had happened in quite a few schools, and I think it was in Broward mainly.
It was in Broward. So
Yeah.
they did have outbreaks, and you're going to get outbreaks when you don't rely on what I say is valuable information, right? And I go back to the science. I don't try to say science a lot when I'm around anti-vaxxers because they have a funny way of understanding science. I mean, we're witnessing rain now like we've never seen before, right? In the state of Florida, we normally get rain that comes down and sprinkles for 10, 15 minutes or so. But you notice now we're getting buckets of rain that last for weeks, right? This is because they continue to deny the science. Climate change is just as real as vaccinations preventing disease. And these people refuse to believe the science because they believe in keeping people ignorant. That's why they're trying to take over our educational systems. You see what they're doing to our colleges and universities. They're appointing presidents of a certain way, of certain persuasion now, opposed to getting academia people to actually run these universities. And then they're going to wonder in a few years, while all of our colleges and institutions are no longer ranked as high as they are today, right? They're ranked today because academia was in the house, not appointed politicians from a certain party that they give as a gift to their next job. These people, when they talk about a handout, they're getting the ultimate handout because they're controlling the purse strings.
Wow.
Are there teachers saying that they would leave the profession, or are there staff saying they would leave the profession if this mandate is passed? Have you guys heard that?
There are some who definitely feel that way because remember, we have an aging population, right? Even when you look at family makeups here in the state of Florida, we sometimes have generational households where our grandmother lives there, our mother, and then the children. And when you think about communicable diseases like this without vaccinations, you're talking about kids, kids catch everything, right? I've been a teacher for a long time. They got all kind of germs. We take all kind of things to make sure we stay safe. But like you say, they're the most vulnerable of all. So when you do things like that, we have teachers that have immune deficiency problems. We have people that are already on FMLA that have to worry about their immune systems. If that were to truly become law, then obviously we would lose a certain percentage of our educators because it just would be feasible for them to stay on the job. We had a ton of people that actually benefited from COVID because they were able to work from home and not expose themselves to things that could have been detrimental to their health and their lives back then. And the same holds true with this here. So teachers are very concerned about this. What I tell them right now is that it was an announcement, right? We're going to continue to monitor it. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure we can keep the people that we represent safe and secure for as long as we can. Even at COVID, in Miami-Dade County School at that point, our school board had not been taken over by DeSantis appointees. We were the first to come out during COVID, and we were the last to go back. Because if you recall, Miami-Dade has some of the highest transmission rates in the country. And these people still was trying to push us back into schools and push us back into buildings before it was actually safe for us to do so.
Wow. I have a question that's a little off of the topic a little bit, but it's also been a hot button topic that I believe falls into your field. I've been hearing that there's been an exodus of children. So I know there was we've lost a lot of teachers over the last few years, but I'm hearing now there's an exodus of children that are leaving the Dade County school system. Can you speak on that?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, exodus is an understatement.
Wow.
We're 13,000 students less than we were this time last year.
Excuse me?
13,000. Now, let's put that in perspective though, right? Now, the school district would never say that these kids are out because of the immigration policies that this country is facing today. They use every other excuse to say that we're losing students. But the truth of the matter is, even though they pass universal vouchers that gives every kid in the state $9,000 to go to private schools do not have the capacity or the desire to have people like you and me in their schools. So that we didn't lose a lot to them. 70% of those who took universal vouchers last year never attended a public school in their life. They were already in private school. So all universal vouchers did was subsidize the rich. So we go back to this thing they always want to talk about, welfare and handouts, right? We're simply handing them $9,000 for a kid that has never attended a public school. So they want to say that's part of the problems. We talk about charter schools. The charter school train left many, many years ago. They created the charter school industry 18, 20 years ago. They slow walk that. And those also do not have the capacity to pull that many students from Dade County Public Schools at this rate. The truth of the matter is we're missing 13,000 students, 2,000 of those kindergarten and first grade, because parents are not sending their children where they don't think they're safe or where they think they might be picked up when they drop them off. So we don't know if they've left the state, but we know they are not attending school. And that's a problem in itself. And I believe, this is me talking, that it has a lot to do with the immigration policies that the federal government is pushing right now. But our state mirrors him. We have Donald Trump light in the governor's mansion here.
A good question in the comments. They said they asked that are 13,000 new kids being homeschooled? Like, and I want to know, like, where are these students? Where did they go? Did they leave South Florida or Florida? Like, where do you guys project that they
that's the $1 million question. Homeschooling, they're not going to homeschool because homeschools goes through that voucher process as well, and those numbers we can track. We can track the number of homeschool kids they're not there. As I mentioned before, they're not in the private school, and they're not going to the charter schools because none of those numbers have jumped dramatically. The major question, like to say, the $1 million question is, where are they, right? Did they leave the state because of the policies we push in Florida? Or are they simply deciding to stay home and be safe? Because out of that 13,000, as I mentioned, 2,000 of those are in the kindergarten level. These are kids that had free access to school that are not showing up because their parents don't feel safe and they don't feel that their children are safe in those environments. But Dade County Public Schools is doing everything they can to try to figure out where these people are. The first couple of weeks before we actually started school, they had teachers and other support people making calls to find out where these people were. Remember, we started a soft launch on a Thursday, so we got to see who was going to show up Thursday and Friday. They started making calls on that Saturday, and they've been making calls ever since, trying to locate these missing children.
My goodness. Is there any statistics too, as because I know you're leaning towards immigration. Are there any statistics whereas out of those 13,000, which are Black, Latin, white? Do you have those numbers?
We don't have any statistics on that right now, but our immigration policies don't seem to discriminate, right? They don't just go after the Haitian community. I mean, we have a large Caribbean community, but he's going after Venezuelans. He's going after anybody that he can make a headline on, so to speak. I mean, if you look at what happened at the Hyundai plant last week, right? That's something that's going to bite him in the butt. You're talking, he got Hyundai to get a plant here. They're bringing people here to man the plant, and he rounds up over 400 people and detains them and thinks that's going to make our financial situation better as far as moving businesses back to the United States. Why would they continue to bother with the foolishness, right? And it's only foolishness because we know these things aren't legitimate. They keep talking about illegal immigrants, violent immigrants. Come on, Papa Keith. 90% of the people come here are law-abiding citizens that contribute to our society and our economy. And they came here because they were unable to do things properly in their own homelands. They were running from oppression. I mean, how do you send somebody back to Haiti under the conditions of the Haitian government right now? How do you send somebody back to Venezuela under the Maduro regime, under the conditions of the situation right now? These are nothing more than claws that continue to stroke division among people. And as Trump mentioned, he likes an uneducated electorate, right? Because education, it gives you the power to critically think. And you can see that a lot of that stuff is crap. I mean, we're on your show, so I won't say what I really want to say. But a lot of that stuff is, it's just BS, man. So yeah, we have some issues in Dade County Public Schools. Like I say, 13,000 is a lot. That does a lot to the budget, which the budget was already messed up because remember, it took them an entire 62 extra days to pass a state budget. As soon as they passed that budget, which was a paltry budget for education, I must say, the president turned around and then withheld federal grants that had already been approved by Congress. So school districts were not allowed the ability to plan accordingly for a successful school year, right? The planning was out of whack and school started anyway. Yes, he did release or said he was releasing the funds. He still have not released all of the funds. He's holding still funds related to ESC and ELL programs, which in a county like Miami-Dade, that's a lot of money. And that's a lot of problems for us because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, more than 60% of our students use English as a second language, not a first. So when you affect ELL, English language learning programs, that's a dent to the budget of Miami-Dade County Public Schools. It presents a problem for me in collective bargaining now, as a matter of fact, because when you don't have the opportunity to plan properly, I mean, that's not going to change what I need. I still need to get my 22,000 members paid, but they're going to have to try to figure out and make some tough decisions on how they're going to make this year work with all the uncertainty that was heaped upon them early in the year.
Wow. A lot of information we got today, man. Thanks for answering the bonus topic that I had for you. We don't want to hold you, but before you go, please, can you explain to our audience, as president of UTD, United Teachers of Dade, what your position, what you actually do for the teachers, just give them a little understanding.
Listen, I'll give you my mission statement in a nutshell, because that pretty much sums it up as simple as I can do it. United Teachers of Dade is a union of professionals. We work to advance the cause of public education. We educate students, we empower our members, but more importantly, we work with families and communities to build a stronger Miami. So, in a nutshell, we do a lot. And this is a career that, you simply just can't do for the money, because they don't pay us enough, right? You do this for special reasons. These are different type of people who have a love for kids, who have a love for communities. And that's what we pride ourselves on, being able to get out in the communities. As a matter of fact, that's how we met, right? You were trying to create something, as I said, thinking out of the box, trying to do something to help the community and the kids in the community. And we were grateful and glad that you came to us so we could actually be a part of that. And when you do those type of things, I'm still there, brother.
Yes, Press. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you.
Hey, man,
Tony White.
Nice meeting you and connecting with you, Mr. Tony.
Absolutely.
I look forward to our next conversation.
How's our sister Carla doing?
Oh, she's doing fairly well, man. She's experimenting with some things out here in society. She for 9 years, I was her first vice president for 9 years when she was president. That's a long time. She kind of missed the kids growing up. When she first got the job, I think Benjamin was probably about 3, and Naomi wasn't even born. And here it is, 12 years later that she was in executive office, 9 as president and 3 as secretary treasurer. So she's taking a little time to kind of watch those kids grow up, and that's something that you have to do. You have to kind of make time for yourself. But we're still in good hands, my brother.
I know we are. No question about it. They couldn't have found a better person, man, in you, brother. We appreciate you.
Thank you, man. And keep doing what you do, my brother. Keep doing what you do.
For sure, man.
Appreciate you.
That's what's up. Hey, man, he dropped some gems there for real. I want to welcome everybody on Instagram as well. I don't want y'all feel like we ignoring y'all. I'm on Instagram live on my page and that podcast page as well.
Yeah.
So we want to welcome. Hey, gang, how y'all doing? Thank y'all. I can't comment with y'all, but it's all love. I just want y'all to know I see you. We here. And thanks for tapping in for real, for real. We back with the fresh series 4 first episode for That Part Podcast. We're actually breaking it up a little bit to bring on another guest. Janey, I want you to kind of lead this one here. This one is very saucy and right up your alley, girl.
Well, we have a friend of the show. If you watched any season of That Part Podcast, Senator Dwight Bullard has come on many times to break things down for us. So of course we wanted to bring him on to talk about what's going on with Miami-Dade County budget. One of the commissioners from his neck of the woods has been getting busy and standing people neck down from chairman Vice Chairman Keone McGee. So I just want to know his perspective on all this stuff. So without further ado, let's bring friend to the show, Mr. Senator Dwight Bullard. Hey.
What's going on, That Part?
What's up, birthday twin?
Hey, Aquarius season is lurking in there,
Coming.
We don't let these Virgos have a second, but we coming.
You know what y'all talking about.
That's what's up, man. Thank you so much, Senator Dwight Bullard. Please, before we dive into the budgets and the questions that Janey has for you, can you please tell everybody a little bit about your work that you're now doing with Florida Rising?
Yeah, certainly. So Florida Rising is a state-based political advocacy organization. We do community engagement, community organizing all across the state of Florida. We're not trying to be anything more than what we are, which is really a potential political home for folks who are, sick and tired of being sick and tired, feeling their own sense of disenfranchisement or dissatisfaction with the current political establishment. But understand that if you come join our team, we're going to ask you to do some work, and we're going to ask you to advocate. We're not here to, create any sort of political solution without people's direct input, because we always feel that those who are closest to the pain are closest to the solution.
That's what's up. Also, thank you so much for your support and Florida Rising support in the past with That Part Podcast, helping to support our live last year when we're going into the election with Kamala and Trump, and you guys supported that, got us some food, and so we appreciate you, the partnership and the support that Florida Rising and yourself have given us over the years.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, are we ready to talk about this budget that's going on with Miami-Dade County? Because
we can talk about
the girls. The girls are fighting over there. They're tussling over there, and people just need to understand what is going on. So before we dig into all of the nuances of the back and forth and the bars and the shade that's been thrown at between commissioners and mayors and all that stuff, Senator, for people who don't follow county politics closely, why is the budget such a critical tool in shaping a life here in Miami-Dade County?
Well, the county budget is super important. You're talking about a budget of over $13 billion with a B. That's the Miami-Dade County budget. What? To put that in perspective, the budget for the entire state of Alaska is $14 billion. Right? So I need people to have a sense of perspective around what kind of money is going through the hands. And of course, everyone knows that much of that is generated through property tax assessment. So people are feeling the pinch. We have a property appraiser who does an annual assessment on people's homes. And, if you see your bill going up, you know why, especially here in South Florida where, we always see these booms in cost of living, even though we still feel the pinch all the time. And I don't want to let our renters off the hook either, right? Part of the reason why your rent goes up is because that building has to pay property tax back to the county as well. And so it's important for us to understand that we're really all in this together. And then the last thing I would say is that any budget, whether it be the county, state, or the federal budget, for me, I view it as a moral document. And what do I mean by that? I mean that what we're spending money on is indicative of where people's priorities are. So when you look at a budget and you look at how it's being spent and you don't like how it's being spent, understand that you need to change the dynamics of who's making those decisions. And in the case of Miami-Dade County, that's the county commission.
Okay. Thanks for breaking that down.
Yeah.
PK, you want to take the next question?
Yeah. So this one is off the hip, Janey. All right. So one of the things that I find really, really, really interesting is that I saw that there was a scenario with the police department, right, with Rosie, and she was in a fight with the mayor over getting some funds for Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, and there was a back and forth, and ultimately Rosie, the top cop, won that fight. Can you explain that scenario for me and what happened there? Can you unpack that?
Yeah, I mean, I won't get down and dirty in the nitty gritty of what the personality conflict might be. What I will say is this: a lot of people didn't pay attention years ago, back in 2018, when there was an amendment on the ballot that ultimately led to an elected sheriff in every county.
Yeah.
Now, the catch-all with that was Miami-Dade was one of the few counties left in the state that did not have an elected sheriff. So what does that mean? That means that when they're determining the budget for the then Miami-Dade Police Department, now Miami-Dade County Sheriff's Department, the top cop then was the mayor, the sheriff. The de facto sheriff was the mayor of the county because we didn't have an elected chief of police. We had an appointed one. Now you have a situation, and this is what all counties go through, unfortunately, where you have the sheriff, who's an elected official, now making demands of the budget that is still in the hands of the county commission. You add on top of that the fact that the state has already passed laws that say if you decrease the police allocation by any amount, if you try to defund, quote unquote, the police, your budget then becomes at risk of being taken over by the state. So for somebody like the mayor of the county, she's in a bit of a catch-22 anytime the police come and say, well, we need more money for X, or we need more money for this. Because if she gets too loud, or says too much, or says, I can't, or you can't have this, or you shouldn't have this, now the overwatch of the governor says, well, we may have to take over your entire budget because now you're in this tit for tat with your sheriff's office. And I'm just going to step out there and say it. I'm not a big fan of spending a lot of money on policing, but Florida's really in a bind because even if we were like, let's say, a Baltimore or Chicago, in which they've been able to reduce crime without adding more police because of that state law. If the police come and say, well, we still need to add more officers or we still need to add more vehicles, you then run the risk of, again, getting in hot water with the governor, depending on who the governor is, over the fact that you're saying now that you don't need as many police officers or that you have data that supports a reduction in the number of police. So it's a unique situation in the state of Florida. And really, I think that's the impetus for what's causing the friction between the sheriff and the mayor.
So she had to get up off the pot.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. Thank you for explaining that.
And Dwight, can you explain to people before we get into some of the nitty gritty things that have been going on with the budget? Like, what are some things that people, just to put in perspective, like that you feel should be highlighted, or what should be top priorities you believe should be reflected in this year's budget?
Yeah, I mean, there's a, I don't know what if the horse is on life support or not, but I'm gonna go ahead and beat this dead horse a little bit in the sense that I think we need to make a deeper investment in public transportation. Our county, our county in comparison to other southern major cities, in comparison to larger municipalities writ large, has one of the poorest public transportation systems in the country. Not poor in terms of necessarily money, but I mean poor in terms of infrastructure. Just to give you kind of, and I don't want to do the apples to apples comparison, but just so you can fully appreciate it, whether you like it or not, New York spends almost $19 billion on their public transportation system.
A year?
Yeah. Now I just told you our budget's $13 billion. I'm not saying we're anywhere near there. You're talking about, 4 times as many people, different dynamics. I totally get that. But I will give you this breakdown. I want to say it was about 3 years ago. We were spending about $214 million on our buses and trains. By comparison, we were spending almost $1.6 billion on law enforcement and jails. What I'm saying to you simply is the math ain't mathing, right? That if you want to be serious about how people get to work, how people then, out of lack of desperation, right, start to commit fewer crimes or involved in less things, it really begins with public transportation. You're seeing now in the mayoral debate in New York, one of the candidates talking about free buses. He's not saying it because he's like trying to just give away money. He recognizes that the standard of life changes for people who do not have access to cars when you create a system, when government is generative enough to create something that allows people to get from point A to point B. And for a county like ours, where we're pushing things further out west, further down south, and further up north, if you do not have some sort of responsive public transit system that meets the needs of the community, you're going to be out of whack. And so, again, I'm always going to harp on that because I really feel there's an imbalance there when you're seeing money spent on other silly things, in my opinion, and not on the things that matter. You saw the controversy earlier around them potentially zeroing out the arts budget, and it's not as though the county's spending a lot on arts. So part of the reason why they felt so comfortable cutting that out was because in comparison to the other things they spend money on, they were like, well, we can take that away. The reason there was such an uproar is because of the high return on investment. When we put money into the arts, when we put money into culture, not only do you see the direct benefit, a return on investment internally, but externally. Imagine a world in which Art Basel comes up, and because we don't have money to then talk about all the visual artists that are local, all the folks that are doing great things, what do you think? What message does that send to somebody who's thinking about traveling here? So why am I going to come down to a place to celebrate art if you're not concerned about art? Think about the multi-millions of dollars that we could have potentially lost just because you decide, to take a hammer to the advertising budget for arts and culture, or to just the general budget for arts and culture around the ramifications, Super Bowls that come into town, all those things. And so that's the kind of thing that we have to be very diligent about, because there's a lot, if you're talking about waste and money that we don't need to spend, we could let's have a real conversation, because as you so eloquently posted in your social media, there's a lot of folks making a lot of money on some of these levels here at the county. And it's like, and just so you understand, and the reason I say that is because the state of Florida, at least up until recently, had a mandate that if you could not make more than $250,000 as a state employee without some additional monies coming in. So when people ask, like, why does the Florida State coach make this much, or the University of Florida coach make this much, understand that their base salary as a Florida State employee is $250,000. Everything else is booster money, resources coming from sneaker contracts and all this other stuff that makes those multi-million-dollar contracts. Yet you're talking about somebody in Miami-Dade County making almost $500,000.
See, let's talk about it.
We can delve into that more, but I'm just saying.
I don't know if Papa keeps talking about Facebook post today, but I was, and this is me talking in my own individual capacity. I was pissed off when I saw the Miami New Times article about the top 25 highest paid employees in Miami-Dade County. And to me, I feel like this conversation came up because of Mayor Cava's so-called, and I won't say so-called, but the hole or deficit. I know it's not a deficit, but what she was saying that there's about like what was it, $400 million worth of funding that wasn't returning to this year's budget. And so there became this conversation of like defunding the arts program and community-based organizations. And so I think, and I made this point, I said now this forced journalists and people to say, well, how are you cutting these things? Where are y'all spending money? And a friend of ours, a mutual friend, me and Mr. Denzel Burnside, I love him to death. That's my brother, but he was defending it. I was like, Denzel, what? And here's the thing, I get the whole thing about being competitive and you want the best people, and this is essentially a firm and 30,000 employees, blah, blah, blah. You cannot tell me in a county where people are struggling to live, they're homeless, they're being forced to move. To your point, they don't have public transportation, where some of the top people are making almost $500,000. I think the average was maybe 350 to about $400,000 a year for the top 25 employees in Miami-Dade County. That is fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry. And here's the other thing too, when the people who was saying, well, this is being competitive, or what about this? And they're like, in the private sector. My point to that is, in the private sector, when you get paid top dollars, you're running efficiently and effectively. County government does not run at the top level, to me, of being efficient and effective. So you can't tell me they deserve these top dollars because they've been there for so long, or all the work that they have to do. And no shade to nobody, get your bag. But this is the private sector. Go to the public sector if you want to make your bag. And then here's the other thing too. And if you go pay people that much, be fucking great at what you're doing. Don't be cutting money to community-based organizations and things like that, and arts and all this other stuff. And you want to pay these people that much money. I think it's an insult to the people of Miami-Dade County when you see somebody making that much money and there are people literally starving and homeless in this county. And I would love to know your thoughts on that.
Well, listen, I'm gonna throw shade. I'm gonna throw shade. I'm gonna throw shade because a lot of those folks listed were county attorneys, right?
Yeah.
Which I get what they're trying to say around, what you make as an attorney, veteran attorney at a firm versus what you can make at the county. Where my shade comes from is for a county that is what you would call, quote unquote, majority minority, right? Where a significant percent of the folks are, first, second, third generation immigrants. Those attorneys need to knuckle up, because when a federal administration basically decides to go run ramshot on all immigrant communities, it should have been Miami-Dade County stepping up first to say, we're not going to just allow you to roll over our people, because we know who our people are. People sit there and say, well, these states or these cities or these counties can't be, counties that protect immigrants, because don't miss me with that excuse. 40% of the population of the entire state of Florida lives in 3 counties: Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. Right? Almost 60% of the revenue for the entire state of Florida comes south of I-4, right?
Wow.
So what I'm saying to you is, don't look me in my face, pee on my leg, and tell me that it's raining, right? So for Ron DeSantis, know where your bread is buttered, because your job is dependent on South Florida. The prosperity of your state is dependent on South Florida. For the person who says that their residence is right there in Palm Beach County, and let's not even talk about the number of folks who weren't on papers properly that have had to work at Mar-a-Lago over the history of that existence of that place. We're not going to talk about the people who clean the rooms at the Trump resorts over in Doral and over on the beach. You know what I'm saying? And whether or not their paperwork is correct. So the fact that you have the audacity to come in my county on that thing, the people in the county who are making all that money need to step up and say, well, I'm going to use this law degree. and I'm going to fight back against the craziness because I know who my people are and what I need to fight to protect my people. So what really rubbed me the wrong way about that list was that it's like, you know, right now there's a public defender or a state attorney, assistant state attorney, making all of $60,000, who's
That
trying to
part.
fight the good fight to save people's lives every day. Yet somebody sitting at the county can't look at the Constitution, look at the charter, look at the bylaws of the county and say, you know what they're doing in Tallahassee is wrong. What they're doing in DC is wrong. And we're going to stand 10 toes down since I'm out here making $250,000, $500,000 to sit around here and figure out, quote unquote, what's best for the county. So that's where my irritation came from. And it's like, you know, congratulations. You've been there 30 years. You're earning money. You can also, it's time for you to cash out your retirement, head on to wherever you're going to go build your house. That's not going to be in Miami, because that's the funny part about it is you're making all this money, putting it in a war chest, and the second you leave that county office and that big paycheck, you're going to be like, Miami's too expensive for me, baby. I got to get up out of here. You're going to take your retirement and move on to wherever you, and that's your business. But what I'm saying is, let somebody who's got some heart, some desire to want to protect community, and some legal know-how, who's making way less than that, get in at a lower rate, earn their way back up, and really fight for what we need to fight for. Because what pisses me off about the county right now is their failure to stand up for everyday people, not only locally, but in this broader based thing. I have the luxury of being a good friend with the mayor of Baltimore. When I see him on TV, I'm sending applause emojis to that brother while he's, you know, being threatened with military rolling in his city. I'm looking around like, who's the equivalent of that in this county? That's all I'm saying. I just need somebody to be my Mayor Brandon Scott, my Governor Wes Moore in this moment, because people are legitimately scared, and rightfully so. And it feels as though everybody at the county, some of these local officials, are choosing to put their tail between their legs, sit on their hands, and act like it's not happening.
Well, would you say Vice Chairman Keone McGee is bringing that energy with his advocacy for community-based organizations and wanting to create a trust fund so that there's not a time where their budgets are threatened? What do you say, or what can you speak to about the advocacy he's been doing in that regard?
I mean, it's a good first start, but I need more. I mean, with all due respect, you know, you're in your second term and you're term limited. So that's great. Congratulations. Hopefully it leaves a lasting legacy. But I'm just saying, like here's again, and I hate to harp on this, right? But in a county that has term limits, that means the most you can serve is 8 years. So my thing is, by the time you get to year 5, 6, what do you have to lose? What you worried about? You worried about DeSantis taking a job? Oh no. You lose the job that the people appointed you to for the last 2 years, or you battle it out in court. Or in the case of these folks who are on the county commission who are attorneys, self-represent. You know, do your thing. But all I'm saying is just show me some heart in a moment where, you know, like, congratulations on the ruling around our Venezuelan and Haitian brothers and sisters who get extended TPS. But I ain't seen everyone got real mealy mouth when they were specifically targeting Venezuelans, Cubans, and Haitians. Last time I checked, Venezuelans, Cubans, and Haitians were a significant part of this county community. Where was the advocacy then? Yes, you want to help out NGOs and you know, nonprofit organizations. Cool. I work for a nonprofit. We don't get county funds. We're not looking for county funds. But what I'm saying for those that are there, what does that mean? Is their advocacy going to somehow be harmed because of the way it's attached to the budget? Can we really talk about true, available, accessible, and affordable housing in a realistic way? Or am I limited in my comments? There's a, nonprofit to be named later on another show that was supposed to do a study around public transportation. How did that go? Right?
Well, during one of those meetings that they discovered that some nonprofits had different reporting standards than others. And so it was inconsistent in how some groups were able to report their work versus others. And I'm like, how is that even a thing? I get grants. Like, there is no world where I can't report what I'm doing.
Right. And there's a lot of nonprofits that should be getting grants that don't, because it's still a good old boys, good old girls network within the building about who you know. And so,
well, didn't we see that with the situation with the chairman?
Yeah.
We saw that plain as day. Whatever happened with that? Yeah.
How was he able to get away? Well, can you explain to people some of the controversy with Chairman Anthony Rodriguez and a nonprofit or organization that he was tied to?
So Miami-Dade County has a very long history, and I can't say it's just him, of elected officials being on boards, creating their own nonprofits, then getting those nonprofits funded through the county budget. People then drawing salaries from those nonprofits that they're affiliated with. So it's not as though that's new, but it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And some people, you have listeners that'll be like, well, the county commission only makes this amount of money. And so what do you expect when you're not paying your county commissioners a responsible salary? To that, I say, I'm going to call BS, because the discretionary funds that these commissioners have is significant.
What is their salary? Isn't it $80,000 or something like that?
No. They only, on paper, on paper, they only make about $6,000 a year as a county commissioner. But their overall discretionary budget is somewhere around the $2 million mark. So.
Wait.
Wait,
Why is their
official
salary $6,000?
It's like their actual salary is in the charter and hasn't been raised. Remember, every time we vote on it, people reject it. And
hold on. But is it genuinely $6,000 a year? Because all right, even in Miramar, let's say it's like a county, a city commissioner in Miramar, it's at like 35 or 36,000. So how does a county commissioner make only 6,000?
So our county commissioners' salaries are tied to the charter, to the county charter. So this goes back to when Miami-Dade was established as a county. And so there hasn't been any significant increase, because you have to vote on an actual salary increase for the commission. Unlike the mayor gets a different salary. It's significantly larger. As folks, we've voted multiple times, or been asked to vote multiple times, to increase the overall salary of the county commission, and voters are like, "No, I'm good. I don't think you should make any more money," right? But the way they get around that is by increasing the discretionary spending and allotment for county commissioners. I didn't know I was telling an unknown truth here, but surprise, surprise, folks. Here's how the government works, right? So they get little perks in their discretionary funds, like a car allowance, other allowances to counterbalance their actual salary. But the problem is
health insurance. Do they get a housing allowance, a clothing allowance?
They get different allowances to supplement what they're making. But by and large, most of the commission draws their real life salary from someplace else. So if they are lawyers, they might be lawyers practicing for a firm. If they are some, run nonprofits, stuff like that. So that is how that works. And
That's problematic, but
oh,
okay.
you have no idea. But
Because it's like, how do I expect you to do this full-time ass job for $6,000? Like, that's how corruption, in my opinion, if you want to corrupt. But you know what I'm
exactly.
saying? Like, that's how that enters into this situation.
I literally saw Keon holding up a sign 1 a.m.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I did an interview, the infamous interview with Keon, and I won't even say it because he'd probably get mad at me. What you could Google it, but I was waiting on him, and he was like, I just left court, and I thought it was weird. I was like, why is he working? I'm like, don't they have like this full-time job as county commissioner? And he was like, no, but I thought he was doing it because of the love, or like, or wanting extra money. I didn't know he had to still try cases as an attorney. That's wild to me.
Yeah. I mean, let's be clear, most political jobs are thankless in a number of different ways. And to your point, whether it's compensation or not compensation, it lends itself to some level of coercion or corruption that people get sick and tired of. But we want to create a world where people who aren't millionaires and billionaires can run for office. And we also want to create a world in which those that hold that public office understand that they also have a social contract with us as the people, that you should be working on our behalf to fix the things that need to be fixed. Right now, you can make the argument that it's out of whack from the top down. How do we fix it? Who knows? I mean, I definitely don't want to go the way of the city of Miami, where they did, all them folks out here making 100,000 now, and you see what's going on there, right? So it's got to be some sort of balance.
Office. So wait, but what are some solutions? What do people need to be, I guess, like in tune to? I know there's another budget hearing, like, because it kind of feels to me, and I hate to be negative, but it kind of feels a little bit like hopeless. It's like this system seems like it's just in place. Like it doesn't seem like there's much the people can do to really fix this, especially not in any quick amount of time. Like what hope do we have, Senator?
So, you know me, I'm always going to mention the voting thing. I think that's important. Naturally, just vote, period. It's always a good way to approach life. But to your point, what I'm scared of is the lack of participation. We were just working a campaign for a sister who passed away in Tampa for her vacated seat. You had 15 people running, right, in a predominantly Black configured seat. The turnout numbers for that, which was Tuesday, 8%. 8% of the folks who could have voted. 45,000 people could have voted. 3,000, just over 3,000 people voted in that district, right? And so I'm going to say it. What scares me, though, is how less and less people are choosing to participate. And don't get it twisted. I get the frustration. I get this candidate isn't my favorite or this, that, or the third. But it's conversations like these that are happening tonight, right? Like, how are we shaping government? Like I just told you, the need to invest in public transportation. My question for you is, we got, voting that's going to happen for half the county commission next year. Who's going to talk about public transportation starting from today? Who's going to bring it up? Tony was on earlier. School board. Half the school board going to be voted out. If we talk about not liking book bans, vaccinations, etc., right? Like, if you're concerned about your child being snatched up by ICE or parents being snatched up by ICE, again, when I talk about being mealy-mouthed and not saying the thing that needs to be said, where are the school board heroes that should be speaking up to advocate for children? Where are the people that are, I don't know if you've been following our former superintendent, but when I tell you who got the smoke for Donald Trump and anybody else is Carvalho out in LA.
Yeah.
Like if
For
you
real?
follow his feed on Instagram, my man say, he basically done told him multiple times, not over my dead body, you come to get these kids, basically. Like, our schools are a safe zone. You come across our children, you're going to be met with resistance by the teachers, administrators, and everybody else. I'm just saying, like, he used to be our superintendent. Did all of a sudden him leaving just make everyone abdicate their responsibility to say the same exact thing? Because the demographics in LA and the demographics in Miami are comparable. So that's all I'm saying is, we need better people. We need more heroes. As Van Lathan has said, I need more killers. I don't just want fighters. I want people who are ready to throw down and do what they need to do in support of making sure people feel safe, remain safe, feel seen, feel protected. And I get tired of having a heart and like comments from politicians from outside of my own county, like the mayor of Chicago and the mayor of Baltimore and all these other folks who are saying, not on my watch. Where are those folks in Miami-Dade County?
So, well, who do you feel like the solutions will come from? Because I don't think elected officials will be that type of people, even though they could be. Like, I'm like, where are the advocacy groups? Like, does Florida Rising do this? Does Dream Defenders or the ACLU, NAACP? Like, who are those people who can speak independently of elected officials? Because you were elected official. Like, there are certain things that you have to do politically, and you weren't that type of dude. But you know what I'm saying? Like, some people play that game, right? And I get that because they're legislators and they're trying to get things passed or whatever. But who are the people who are teaching the people? Because to me, when you hear something like how this county budget is, and if I'm hearing this as, say, I'm not Janey, the nerd who likes this stuff, but I'm as a regular single mom or whoever working, and I hear all of that, I am tuning out because that just seems like an impossible thing to overcome. So who are the people who could break that down and say, hey, you want public transportation? These are the steps that we get to get that. We want lower crime. These are the steps. Like, who are those people? Who are those groups doing that work?
Hello News.
Right.
I mean, we just report on it. I mean, I can't do the work. I can report on the work.
and I guess that's essentially what I'm saying is, like, there has to be a level of locking in on, from everybody, right? When I'm saying 8% of people are voting in Tampa, or the 11% of people who showed up in the last city of Miami election, or the 18% of folks who showed up in the last county election, what I'm saying is that means that there's 80% of the people who are doing a piss poor job of doing the bare minimum. So there's got to be some accountability on the part of the people who are saying that they're being left out, right? Who are saying that they're being, marginalized to the sidelines. The bare minimum that you can do is showing up to bubble that sheet on election day. Bare minimum. For the everything else, look to the organizations that are doing the work around the things that you care about. There are a lot of housing advocacy organizations. Florida Immigrant Coalition. If you're talking about immigrant rights, Florida Rising, we aim to do what we can around the 5 things that we're working on, like climate justice and housing justice and other things. Catalyst Miami is another one. Power U is out there if you're focused on youth development and youth engagement, right? Everybody's trying to do their thing, but the reality is that we're also in a world in which there's a lot of talking heads who really ain't saying nothing, right?
That part.
That people are tuning into, feel good podcast or podcast with people who just agree, make them agree with the 1 or 2 things that they find agreement with, or those that are out here creating a scenario where the Ashy Man, the Surgeon General gets out here talking about gets here talking about vaccine
He need the cocoa
mandates.
butter one.
And I was listening to the earlier part, but think about it, Jake Tapper is basically like, you do know you're the first Surgeon General in the country to try and make this move. And he was just like, oh, just baffled at the idea. And I'm sitting here just like, it's that kind of, like, that's where we need people to lock in, to understand that the reason you haven't heard of a polio case in the last 50 years is because of vaccines. Like, whether you want to, you can get into your own personal afflictions or ideas about certain things, but understand the historical context. The reason we haven't had mass measles, mass rubella, mass whooping cough, mass outbreaks is because we have vaccinations. The reason we can sit here on this podcast and be able to walk outside our houses and breathe raw air again is because we combated COVID and to some degree won, because some of us were willing to take that jab in the arm.
I did, and I don't care.
In order to save the others who were choosing not to. But it's funny because it's wild that we're really letting these choose not to folks be the dominant thing. Like, dude couldn't even stand on his own science. He was like, it was just, I felt morally obligated to tell these people, that you can do whatever. It's like, sir.
He compared it to slavery.
Right. Don't even.
That's the go-to. That's the go-to. That's the go-to. That's the go-to.
It took everything in my being to like not jump through the screen or like jump on the road to Tallahassee to just, because some people have punchable faces. Let's be clear. And him, the vice president. I mean, I'm just, and again, allegedly punchable faces.
Can I go slightly off topic, Janey?
Yeah, I've been monopolizing. Thank you for letting me get them off.
You good, man. You good. Since we have our senator here, so we had some breaking news. The world had breaking news that happened today. Conservative talking head was speaking at I think a university in Utah, or if not Utah University, and was shot by seemingly a sniper and killed. For a bunch of people live there, that were there to see him, to see, and really the world at this point now. I've gotten the actual video of it happen like everybody else. It just, and it's even on social media. Again, I don't condone that stuff. The man has a wife and two children. And, when I seen it in that light, it made me feel a way. But, with the climate, with the political climate right now, is this where we at with it? And, you would think that him being in Utah, probably one of the most conservative places in the country, you know what I mean? He would be at home. That's, that's so, it's almost, and I'm not comparing it, it's almost like how you'd feel about Malcolm X being killed in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Can you unpack that for me a little bit?
Well, first I want to say that there were two shootings today. There was a school shooting in Evergreen, Colorado today as well.
Another one?
Yeah. Wow. And that marks 44 school shootings this year already. We ain't been in school 44 days, and we've already had 44 mass school shootings. So I just want to say that we have a gun problem in this country, first and foremost. And that kind of adds fuel to the context around Charlie Kirk, right? Whenever these things pop up, people want to go into mental health. We had the tragedy that happened, recently, and they were like trying to associate that with, the fact that the person who shot the gun was trans, and trying to.
The one in the church, correct?
Right, yeah. And they keep trying to tiptoe around the issue. Not only do we have more guns than people, right? When they give you that statistic, people forget That's the legal number, right? That's the registered guns number. I saw one study when I was in the legislature that said for every person in the United States, there are probably anywhere between 30 to 40 guns per person, right? Which means if you got 2 legal blickies on you, right, then somebody got quite a few legal and unlegal. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So when I say that is a pervasive, and people were like, Second Amendment, I'm not here. This is not up for debate in terms of how you go about protecting yourself or how you engage. If you want to be a responsible gun owner, let's talk about that. If you want to be a legal gun owner, we can talk about that. But we have to acknowledge that we have a pervasive gun problem that does not exist in other developed nations. There should be no reason why an American citizen can go to London, can go to France, can go to Italy, can go to even some what we view as lesser developed countries and feel safer than they do in their own backyard, right? And so I know that's a long way of like talking about the topic, but it's like for someone like Charlie Kirk, who was a big time Second Amendment advocate, who went as far as to say that some people have to die in order for us to protect the Second Amendment.
Wow.
You know, this is where, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is part of the cake that you are helping to bake.
Live by, die by.
You know what I'm saying? With your words. And so we have to have a real humanistic conversation about it, because the country looks stupid in comparison to the rest of the world. Because other folks, you know, there was, what was it? I think they were talking about how, whether it's New Zealand or Australia, got rid of, you know, came to their gun laws, had everything to do with one mass shooting. One. And they were just like, cool. And the thing about it is, it wasn't, everyone's like, oh, is this aggressive ban? People in that country still have guns. They just don't have mass shootings anymore. It can be done, right? And we have to be serious about it. I don't think people want to be serious about it. I mean, listen, if there are two things we do in our American movies, we prop up cops and we prop up guns on a regular basis. We perpetuate it. That somehow these are things that we have to have. And we always say we have to have them, quote unquote, in order to feel safe, which is actually antithetical to anybody who actually feels safe. Because if you ask somebody who actually feels safe, they'll sit there and be like, oh, I have a good quality of life. I have better health care. I have a roof over my head. I have food on the table. You know, what are the things that make you feel safe for those who are actually safe? I promise you guns is lower on the list if we were to be serious about it. If you ask somebody on Star Island what makes them feel safe, it's not going, you know, guns ain't going to be in their top 3. Yet we sit there and perpetuate this notion. The guns
You don't think they're using their guns to protect they castles?
Not them.
That's what I'm saying.
Not them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, once you get behind the gate, once you got to take a boat over to get on this thing, I promise they're good. Because there's like 18 layers of things they have to get through in order to, you know what I'm saying? So
and what they call that is security.
And then the last thing I'll say on that is this. People would like to perpetuate the notion that Black people and Black communities somehow learned this on their own. I want to give all the white people credit for teaching Black people violence, for teaching Black people gun violence. You understand? The Second Amendment was in the Constitution in the first 10 amendments well before Black people were even free. So you can't all of a sudden be like, man, those Black people are more violent, disproportionate. You know, like that old commercial in the 80s. I learned it by watching you.
Oh, yeah. I learned it from you, Dad.
Not sure which commercial was this.
When he caught his son with drugs.
Oh, okay.
It was a kind of like a say no to drugs campaign. And he caught the kid when he opened up the door. He opened up the door, the kid grinding up the weed. Pops
I gotta
come in.
Google that because I'm like, I don't
Son,
know that one.
What are you doing?
Like
what are you doing with this? The son turned around. I learned it from you, Dad. Shut him right up.
Wait.
Yeah, nothing to say. That looks stupid. Okay.
Wait. Speaking of learned it from you, Dad, did we learn anything else from these countries who banned, or not when say banned, but had stricter gun laws, and was mental health a part of it? Because to me, I feel like a big part of why we see some of these shootings is because of the way we treat mental health in this country. Have you heard or have you seen any studies or anything with other countries that take mental health more seriously than ours that also help contribute to lowering their mass shootings?
Yeah, I mean, we're the only industrialized nation that doesn't have some semblance of free healthcare, and that includes mental health as well. Right? So like, again, I've been American. I was born here. I want to see us as a country be better. But when we get into these like debates around why we can't have free healthcare or why we shouldn't have free healthcare, and then we don't want to talk about the fact that all of it really roots itself back to racism at the end of the day, and have a conscious conversation about the need for these things, we do ourselves a disservice. Because you're right, Janey. Like, think about it. The idea that I have to find out whether or not my employee-based healthcare will provide me money to go see a therapist when I feel myself spiraling or having a panic attack that's undiagnosed is crazy in comparison to other folks that literally have walk-in mental health clinics where you can sign up and have an appointment, right?
That's just one part of it. You also got to add in the other factors of other things that, like improper diets, and it's like a gumbo.
That's healthcare to me too.
Yeah, it's like
nutrition
a gumbo
is a part of it. Yeah.
Of all of these different things that are triggers to to this type of behavior, these outcomes.
And we're getting exposed right now as a country. For me, if there's going to be a silver lining or a positive coming out of all the chaos that's going on, it is people waking up to the reality of the gaps, of the things that we've been missing out on, and wanting to actually fix that. I'll use Great Britain as an example, right? Great Britain gets bombed out the frame by Germany in World War II. The first thing they do is create the national health system after World War II, right? Because they realized they needed to protect their people in a different way than just bombs and guns, right? They're like, we need to create something that will sustain us irrespective of another world war. And that's how they created the National Health Service. Good, bad, or indifferent, Great Britain had enough sense to say, in this moment of complete tragedy, we're going to do something for our people. And I'm not saying that we need to go through that severe of a tragedy to recognize that. I'm saying for us as Americans, like, as we're watching folks get literally snatched off the street by masked men, as we're unfortunately experiencing more mass shootings, as we're doing these things, someone has to be conscious enough to say, all right, let's do this. Let's stop what we're doing. Mention, like I said, Australia. Like, I remember watching the interview with one of the people from the Conservative Party, which would be their equivalent of like the Republican Party, who said, I'm willing to lose my job to make sure we ban these guns. And sure enough, did. But he was like, if I got to stand on that, I'm going to stand on that. And so the fact that the people that we see standing up are only standing up for the release of the Epstein files, which I think is important. But I need you to stand up for other stuff. Like going back to what I said at the beginning, I need more people to be vocal about what I see happening every day. We have had an exorbitant increase in homelessness nationwide in this state as well. We have undiagnosed folks dealing with mental health issues. Going back to the FSU shooter from like last year, you know what I'm saying, who was the son of a police officer, which means that the people who are supposed to be protecting us don't realize what's happening in their own house. We've got a bigger crisis than we like to give credit to. And I'm saying, like, somebody got to step up and stop playing petty politics and say we're going to actually drive home an actual solution.
How do we get over that fear? And let's talk about Black people because, you know, I feel like we save us, right? But I
Right.
can't blame Black people and even our elected officials who I feel like a lot of them go into it with good intentions. But I mean, we see, you know, Malcolm X and King and Evers and all these people shot down. We see people who get destroyed financially and they become these, you know, outcasts. I mean, even you to a certain extent, Senator, like you spoke up and talked about, you know, Palestine and unfairness. And to me, I felt like that was unfair and you not getting reelected. And not everybody could hold their own and still, you know, be like you and still be resilient. Some people, that's a legitimate fear to be like, I'll be real. Sometimes I think about what I report because I'm like, is it even worth me going out here to take these bullets where somebody then I become a target and now my financial situation is targeted, my family is targeted, my, you know, people jobs are targeted. Like it's almost like we don't have an infrastructure and I'll keep it with Black people. We don't have an infrastructure within our community to keep us safe. Where it's like, okay, if we gonna have our next king or our next ex, who's the people in the community that's gonna cook for the family and watch their kids and make sure they got their bills paid, because that's a dangerous place to be and saying, hey, I'm gonna teach y'all how to do this and I'm gonna show y'all the way and I'm gonna show y'all the game and I'm gonna hold these, you know, community classes to teach y'all how to break down this county budget and what y'all need to go through. Like you're essentially putting a target on your back, and just for people to be kind of like, man, I'm gonna go back in my phone, forget them, and I lost my job, my every, like, you get what I'm saying? Like that's a lot to ask for people without an infrastructure of protection. So it's like, how do we overcome that? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, what I would say, and this is for Black folks, right? There ain't never been a time where we've been safe. So the idea of keeping your mouth shut is a false sense of safety for Black people, right? Because you brought up Malcolm and Martin. Malcolm, you could argue, gets killed because he's telling Black folks, pick up the guns, protect yourself, defend yourself by any means necessary. Martin gets killed a few years later by saying, we want peace. We want to do this thing nonviolently. So there is no right way to do it, right? To your point around the notion of like speaking up, that ain't going to do it either, right? You have people that get violated every day for being silent. You know, I always think about like the Black mothers of murdered children. All of them at some point before their child was killed was of the impression that if I keep my head down enough, if I, just go out, work, clean, cook, raise my family, that's going to be enough of a halo of protection to protect my child from whatever. Mike Brown's mom thought that. I'm sure our sister Sabrina thought that. So many others. So I just feel that there's an inherent value then if you know that there's always going to be risk, to do the thing that you have to do to get us deeper and further amongst the arc, because the people who've been able to push us further have been the risk takers. And I'm not just saying that from a political standpoint. I'm saying those who are willing to be inventors and being creative, those that were willing to be artists, those that were willing to be, put themselves out there, because it's always a risk that you run. Barry Gordy ran a risk trying to open Motown, right? You name it. Like Issa Rae takes a risk trying to navigate Hollywood. People who do amazing things, because to be Black in America is to take a risk. And so you might as well stand 10 toes down and say something, because there's an inherent value in that. Like there's nothing, like ain't no saving us and ain't no protecting us by hoping and wishing.
Yeah. And you better let
thoughts
me
and
come sleep on
prayers.
your couch then.
But you know what, Janey? Janey has a good point though, Senator, that I would like to, like a different side of it, because everything you're saying is nothing wrong with what you're saying. You're absolutely right. But why haven't we figured out a way to protect those people? I think that's kind of like what Janey is kind of leaning on, for real. So if there is a situation where, like, all right, look, not to say myself, but all right, we got Brother Keith on the radio. He got a little audience here. Let's put the battery pack, or let's figure out a system around. Because I'm gonna tell you, and Janey could attest to this. I did that for myself, because I knew I wanted to be outspoken. So I surrounded myself at that time. It was who was running the Dream Defenders?
Phil.
Phil. I surrounded myself with Phil, you, Dwight. Funny enough, Dwight, I was scrolling through, I was looking for something on Instagram. I have more interviews with you than I have with any other person. Dead ass. I'm talking about radio station.
T-double-D and Trina.
More than them. You beat them. But so, for instance, and I'm just using myself as an example because I have knowledge of it, but I insulated myself with certain people who I saw. You, Janey, Phil Agnew, Valencia, because I said, listen, and I said it. I said, if I run out here and these people at 1035 The Beat be like, yo, I need y'all to flood this lobby and go crazy to make sure that I have that level of protection, because if you protect me, then it allows me to go out there and do the good work. You understand what I'm saying? And, why don't we have that stuff set up? Why don't we figure out who these people are, who are our strongest advocates that are in certain positions, and why don't we build that around them as a people?
I mean, I would love that. I mean, that sounds amazing, but at the same time, I'm a realist in the sense that considering the conditions that we're under here in these United States, and again, if we're talking about humanity broadly, that might be a different conversation. But I'm saying for Black folks in particular, no matter what type of bold you decide to run, you also run the risk of getting taken down. And there's nothing innately that, quote unquote, we can do. Like, I use Martin as an example, right? Like, you're talking about, like, yes, he was a firm believer in nonviolence. You ask anybody that was around him, he had bodyguards, let's be clear, right? Right? It still didn't stop that Black woman from stabbing him in New York, and it didn't stop him from being assassinated in Memphis. He created an infrastructure. He had chief lieutenants, Andrew Young, Abernathy, Jackson, You know, he had spiritual advisors, even though he was a reverend. You know, he had his dad giving him advice like, "Don't do that." You know, he didn't live separate from his family. Like, he stayed in a connected unit. Like, he lived in the same house with his father, with his family, to create a circle of protection. But, you know, he took risk. And that's what I'm saying is like, and that's what I mean by the notion of taking risk. When you're doing something that is antithetical to where someone wants to keep you, it's always going to look risky. It's always going to feel risky. And not everybody's going to be with you. And you also have to remember that for some Black folks, that all they want to do is be white folks. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, Fred Hampton, you know, his bodyguard was the one who drew up the blueprints.
Right.
Right. So it's like
literally,
right?
Right.
So that's what I'm saying is like, and I'm not saying that that's like you can't build community or that you can't think about this thing, but it's like I was actually on a call before this one. You have to appreciate being part of the lineage of that. Like who you decide as an adult to model your life after is important. You know, like the idea that I can look at a Malcolm, look at a Martin, look at a John Lewis, look whomever, and see myself reflected in that is important for me. And the other benefit is I get to look back at what they've provided me as a blueprint to how I'll move forward, right? And I've also accepted the fact that I may be able to leave some sort of lasting legacy for somebody else to do that, because our work is, I would love to say that we're nearing completion as Black people, but the best we can do is leave reminders like this podcast to other folks that they can say, you know what, PK and Janey were saying this back in 2025. I can now have video evidence to that, so that, you know, 50 years from now, when unfortunately I may be going through the same thing, I'm not crazy because they were talking about it then. Yeah, I'm mad that it hasn't been fixed, but I also know that we have a pervasive problem, and somebody who was at least saying something significant with some sort of meaning, trying to help us find solution to some of these real life problems. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's incredibly important, and we can't forget about that as we hope to try and get to this place where we don't have to deal with this kind of stuff anymore. But, you know, I'm not, you know, whether it's Emmett Till or George Floyd or Trayvon, I'm not convinced that there won't be an unfortunate next Black martyr that will lead to some sort of march. I'm not remotely convinced that, unfortunately, people won't have to pay the price for, you know, the statements or the actions that they take in the move towards justice. But I'm also equally convinced that there will be another Black president, and this one will be more woke than the last one, right? I'm also convinced that we can get to a point where people understand that public policy and politics does not have to be some sort of like, you know, trigonometry test, that it's very much more like an easy spelling test, you know, when people really, when it boils down to it. But as we see by the actions of some of these state legislators, they're still going to try and take stuff from us, like they're doing in Missouri, like they did in Texas, like they're trying to do in Florida. So we got to keep scratching.
It's so crazy, Janey. I'm sitting there listening to Brother Dwight, and I'm like, you know, he's still working as a senator, in the sense that I'm not sure how much the senators got paid when you were a senator, But this is something I wanted to ask you, like differently, like off the air, but just based on like how it was leading into everything. Like, Brother Dwight, you lend so much of your time to these podcasts. I see you on so many other platforms. I know 80%, we can't afford to pay you for what we doing here. We doing it as a labor of love, right? So
it's all love. Y'all family.
And we appreciate that, but like I'm trying to wrap my head around it because I see myself moving in the same space, and I'm so used to going on stages and getting paid to talk for 2 hours or being on the radio to talk, and I'm finding myself since I started jumping out there more on the political side of stuff, that I'm lending more of my time to a lot of things that are occupying a lot of my time. So in that same notion of the commissioners and the senators, people getting paid a small amount of money or just getting their money from maybe really one or two sources, but lending so much of their time and energy and conversation and knowledge that is so valuable to these platforms that we have and so many others. How do you navigate and manage that? And how do we help a brother? I've never seen you with a GoFundMe. Like, how does it work, bro? How does it work?
Oh man, I appreciate it, man. Like,
I mean, I won't let you buy a drink if I can help it. You know what I'm saying? If we out, I won't let you buy a drink. You know what I'm saying? I won't let you buy me lunch.
Because I only drink pineapple juice at the club. So it's all good. So I'm a cheap man. So. No, I mean it's I forget how the quote goes, but it's something to the effect is the two most important dates in your life are the date you're born and the date you find out why you were born, right? And I butchered that, so don't beat me up on the internet. But at a very young-ish age, I realized that my life, for me and mine, has to be one of being purpose-driven and providing service for community. I did that as a teacher. I was blessed to do that as an elected. I'm still blessed to do that now. So it just feels like that's my responsibility. And I get that that's not everybody's responsibility. So I have no problem lending myself to do whatever I need to do because I understand what my responsibility is, right? So I'm gonna keep doing what I do, and I've been blessed enough to, travel, get opportunities. I'm not, I don't require much. Like shout out Publix. I just really craving some Publix fried chicken today, and they're blessed enough to only be $9.99. I mean, that's it. You know what I mean? Like it's for me, man. I'm easy, bro. Like that's once you know what you're here for, the rest of the stuff falls in place. And so, that's the stuff I be on. That's how my life be like. I mean, do I wish more people would kind of like? Here's what I wish for more people. I don't wish for more people to like operate like me. I wish more people will be privileged enough to find their purpose and live in that, and understand that their responsibility that they have to give to the world. I'm gonna butcher another quote, but I use it all the time around Charles Hamilton Houston, who was Thurgood Marshall's mentor, who basically said something to the effect that either you are a social parasite or a social architect. Right? That's really all people have. Like either you're going to like be about the destruction or you're going to be about the building. And so everybody should be able to like make that simple application, right? Like is what you're doing bringing about the demise of something, or is it actually helping to grow something? And if you're asking yourself that question and you're confused about the answer, then chances are great you're destroying it. I'm just being honest, right? Like if you
know that part,
if you're struggling, you're like, what? Yeah, chances are. And so what are you doing? Like, how are you pouring into it? You know, and so I just want folks to be able to do that. So if it's music, be about music. But what is that? Is the music contributing something? And I'm not saying like all music has to like be conscious. I'm just saying like, are you honestly making people feel good? You know, could you live, for those musical artists that are out there, can you live for the next 50 years of your life knowing that someone is listening to your product and feel good about it? Right? And feel good about it. Not about the money you made. Can you feel good about the product that you created? Are you asking yourself that question? Right? Like, it's stuff like that. You know what I mean? So,
my mentor, my man. I love you, brother.
Yes. Mic drop.
Appreciate y'all letting me talk your ear off. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was only on for like 30 minutes in my ear just wilding.
It's good. This was good. I'm actually going to listen to this on my flight.
You know what I mean? And you've always given us a good kickoff with our series as well, man. You've been on quite a few of our
tradition.
Yeah, quite a few
Listen,
of our.
When I logged on, I was like, I'm not at the airport this time. Look at me. Look at me.
For real. Senator Dwight Bullard, man, thank you so much, brother, for the gems, the knowledge, the love for the both of us and supporting us and, in our endeavors here, man. And thank you for being such a great mentor to me. And I give pretty much you and Janey the credit. Janey got my engine started, and then you put me in first and second and third gear. So, Senator. So I thank you both, so much for allowing me to be the person that I am today. To your point, finding my purpose and something that I could feel proud of and stand on. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you both for that.
100%, man. All love to both of y'all. And like I said, this is y'all lasting legacy, man. Don't squander it. I mean, the content y'all putting out on here is absolutely phenomenal. I'm not just saying that because I'm on it tonight. I'm talking across the board.
Thank you.
But this is the time capsule that we used to do back in the day, right? Like this is going to be the thing where people get to look back and be like, okay, there were some people talking about the things I needed them to talk about. So that part.
I love it. Darnell Roberts called you Obi-Wan Kenobi. I concur.
Hey, Faith, Crystal, what's up? Mama, Tate, what's good? We appreciate y'all. Thank you, Senator. We're going to let you go, man, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Love you.
All right, peace.
That's what's up. Big shout out to our producer, man. She been on point.
Yes, for sure. Dereka always getting us right.
Dereka James, what's up, girl? I know we had y'all out very long today, but it's a great way to jump off the show. Yeah, we did. Should we tease them about next week a little something?
I don't even know what's happening next week.
Okay, so funny enough, we could speak freely because this is how we do, and people love the fact that we like this anyway, right? And we get it done. So we have the health pledge.
Yeah,
we have the health pledge. But here's the thing. Remember, I had so funny. I had the thing. I have an interview that I'm working on for us with the mayor to actually have the mayor discuss the budget. So I think we'll do the health pledge, my health pledge next week, right? And then the weekend after, and then the Wednesday after that, we can have Mayor Carver.
After my Facebook post, let's see if she returns that. God dang show. I hit her a little bit. I ain't punch her, but slapped.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Little
Upside,
slap
oops,
box.
upside your head. I
I
said, oops.
mean, but yeah. But no, no, no. Yeah, next week will be dope. Excited about that
Mhm.
conversation, and I think Dwight was a part of it too,
Yeah,
um,
yep, yep.
Dexter Bridgman,
Dexter.
founder of MIA magazine and Legacy magazine, so that'd be dope. Um, we've had the people here. Let's just tell them how to follow us and support us and all of those good things.
Absolutely, absolutely. We need your support as much as possible, man. But regardless if we get it or not, man, we continue to push along. Shout out to our first guest that we had, the president of UTD today
Yeah.
when we were talking about the vaccines. For those of y'all who may be tapping in a little later, please go back and watch the full show. And then, of course, we had former Senator Dwight Bullard, who pulled up to discuss the Miami-Dade County budget, and then we veered off into a few other conversations as well with him. It ended up being pretty amazing. Thank you for everybody who's been on from start to finish. Please follow. Know that ticker is going to come up any minute now, but please follow my. Whoop! Look at that. Look at God, Mom. What won't he do, Mom? You see that? Shout out to my mom. Follow my sister
Oh, my mom
Janey
be
Tate.
thirsty like that too. So I
Oh,
thought
she
you were
is?
talking about her. Yeah, you ain't see her putting Bible verses in there when Dwight was talking.
That's right. Well, both of our mamas. What won't he do? Please follow my amazing co-host Janey Tate, man. She's so dope. At High Low News, of course, she's the founder of South Florida's Hyperlocal News, and then you can follow her personally if you want to stalk her, like I like to say. Talented ain't gonna be too happy about it, but it's right there for you at Janey Tate. All right.
And stalk Papa Keith on at Papa Keith at Papa_Keith and at Just Vote period. Look at us giving the other person handle.
Love it, the love. And make sure you follow us at That Pop Podcast 305 on YouTube and Instagram. It's very important that you subscribe, please. And thank you in
YouTube page.
advance. We need you to subscribe and follow, and that helps us out a lot. And we'll be back, next Wednesday to give you all an amazing show. It's always about you, stuff that you could use and share, and go to the water cooler if you still do that, and have conversations with your friends, family, and coworkers about. These are things that you can now break down to them and keep the conversation going. You could always revert right back, like Dwight said, to this show for years to come, to get some understanding on some of these conversations that we're having with these amazing people. Love you too,
Love you too,
Mama Tate.
Yes, I saw your
Big
mom in the
supporter.
comments earlier too, Mama Kathy.
Yeah. You saw her, right? Get him, Janae.
Yes, honestly, I'm gonna put it out there because I saw our girl Faith in the comments and some other people who I know have access to funding, and even Senator Dwight. I think there needs to be some community conversations and some organic conversations in person, teaching people in our community how to advocate for themselves. And I mean, if y'all can help us get some funding to do it, because it could be a That Part podcast series where we're going into places and doing those things. I mean, we having conversations about the Miami music scene. Why can't we have one about transportation and all these other things that matter to us? And I think people want to do better. I just think they need information too. Even so much too, it could be a conversation on like, how do we support our advocates? I'm pretty sure there's people, because like we don't have the infrastructure, or they're not as strong as they used to be, or prevalent, like the SCLCs and the SNCCs and the NAACP. I know they're doing that thing and they're trying, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that was those are those organizations and institutions protecting Martin and Malcolm, or Megger, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And we need to figure out like how to, like, if they, because these organizations still exist, we need to figure out how to like reconnect. What does that look like? And also to have a place where people can retrieve that information easily, if they need to refer back to it. And but also too, I just think having like that one-on-one conversation with people helps. And then also to recording it for posterity for people to refer back to. So it's gonna take a bag to do that type of organic work. But I think, to me, the for real, Faith. Oh, girl, we got to talk offline. But here's the thing. I think, to me, the role, especially Black-owned media, people like us, Papa Keith, the BOMA members, Black Press. I think we could stand in that gap because, one, we connect people to information, so it's easy for us to connect people for events and to share things like that. So I think that's the role that we play in this this space of advocacy. And I think that if some people give us the battery pack, we can actually see some things. And I also think too, a lot of times we split up our energies too much. I've been to different events where people in the community are trying to organize, and they're like, okay, we're going to talk about housing, gun violence, this, and that, and all in one thing. And I'm like, nah, you got to focus on one thing at a time, because it's a lot. For Dwight to break down that budget like that, and I'm like, my mind is blown. You can't talk about all those things. So we got to identify
Exactly.
what the top thing is that we want to start with, what is digestible, what can we win? And maybe it's just 1 year focusing on transportation, or 1 year is focusing on affordable housing. And we like, okay, what are we going to do? How do we advocate? How do we go to our city meetings? What does that look like virtually now? Like, how do we, hold press conferences? Like we gotta focus in on one subject at a time and master that and get some progress. And then we could go on to other things. And I think that builds also to your strength in that thing. Like it's like a positive reinforcement, like, oh, I accomplished this thing. And I also too think it helps with the other things that you want to work on as well. So I don't know what the most important thing that we need to start on first. I don't know if that's healthcare or housing, jobs, but I think we need to figure that out. Some masterminds, maybe me, you, and Dwight or Faith, the Glendons, and all these other people come together and we figure out what that is. And I think we could pull the community together. But to Dwight's point, I'm gonna stop being a little scared biatch and stand up and start speaking up a little bit more. He had a point. We always been in trouble in this country and at risk. So it ain't no need for you to be quiet. And that's for all of us. And we all could play a role in our own little way. So that's my little soapbox. I just wanted to get that off before I forgot about it.
Where them fans at? Where them fans at? Love you, JT. That was
Love
dope.
you more, PK. We'll see you
Yeah,
guys
man.
next week.
Appreciate y'all.
Bye.